indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please stay standing, and Ed, go right ahead.
Dear Lord, thank you for allowing us to meet again. Let our decisions meet your approval and to the satisfaction of our citizens. Now strengthen us and make our, through these decisions. Father, please guide us so this meeting can be productive. In the Lord's name we pray, amen.
Okay. We start out with roll call, please.
Yes, Chuck Sargent.
Here.
Linda Garrett. Present. Karen Guyville. Present. Ed Brightfield.
Here.
Lori Fisher.
Present.
Bennett. Present. Supervisor Pearson.
Present. Okay, all accounted for, great. Any announcements?
No.
Department reports, as usual, are available in my office. Or you can ask Jamie for them, are they available to you? Petitions?
No.
Okay, go to the order of business now. Approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
A second.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. Any discussion? Not hearing any, could we have roll call on that, please?
Ed Brightfield.
Yes.
Karen Guyville.
Yes.
Linda Garrett.
Yes.
Chuck Sargent.
Yes.
Lori Fisher.
Yes.
Bennett, yes. Supervisor Pearson.
Yes, okay, we'll move on to item number 1, consent agenda.
Yes, before the board will be the February 15th, 2021 minutes. Bills as paid for February. Pollyant Trails 9963 dues, IT Right yearly service agreement, and a budget amendment for the Light District by 500 and will be decreasing dues and fees.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I have a question on the consent agenda.
Yes, go
Sorry,
ahead.
if I have one. Just one question on the check disbursements for the professional engineering of 5520. I guess I'm not familiar with what that's for.
Which one?
It's for February 4th. It's on the first page down at the bottom, professional engineering, $5,520.
That's our engineering service. That's an in and out expenditure. It is for when there's a land development issue, so we have to repay the engineer. So that would be his fee for a land development.
So that's for a specific one that was going on?
That would be probably for Salvation Army. I didn't bring the book with me, but yeah, that's the one that's
Okay.
going on.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, we had a motion by treasurer,
I'll second it.
and we had a second by trustee Brakefield. Okay. Any other questions? Not hearing any. Could we have roll call on that, please?
Linda Garrett.
Yes.
Chuck Sargent.
Yes.
Karen Guyville.
Yes.
Ed Brightfield.
Yes.
Lori Fisher.
Yes.
Bennett, yes. Supervisor Pearson.
Yes. Okay, we're going to move on to item number 2, which is the actual work session, the budget work session. This is our final work session. We've gone through it several times. Now we're going to go through it again, and if there's any modifications or anything, this is the time to speak up. We'll go page by page on this. Anybody have any questions before we start? Okay. Okay, there's 13 pages altogether. We'll start on page 1. Anybody have any questions on page 1?
I don't know that I have page 1. I have 2.
You have 1 of 13?
Mine starts at 2 of 13 as well.
I think Bruce should read everything on here.
Just to say, apparently you guys don't get paid for the year then.
Paul, you want to
I have one.
I have one,
13.
apparently it was on the...
You need to make it 10 copies?
Karen, do you want to see it?
Well, either that or the attachment that goes for the adoption of the budget, page 1 of that. It's the list of revenues, so you should have that in your package.
Oh, yeah.
So you could look at that one because it's the same, it just doesn't list the expenditures.
I have a copy. Somebody gave me a copy.
Okay.
Okay. So on page 1, does everybody have something that they can look at there? Okay. Anybody have any questions on page 1? Okay, not hearing any. Let's go on to page 2. Everybody has a page 2 though now, right? Okay, on page 2, does anybody on the board have a question on that? Okay, we'll move on to page 3. We'll move on to then page 4.
All right. Oh, I got paid. Mine are mixed up.
You missing page 4 as well?
I mixed mine up. That's what, I must have done that. I found my 1, 2,
okay now?
and 3.
Okay, on page 4.
My fault.
Okay, very good. We'll move on to page 5. It's a short page. And let's move on to page 6. Fire operating. And we'll move on now to page 7. Anybody have any questions on the fire? Okay, not seeing any. Okay, we'll move on to page 8. This is their capital. That's a short one also. Move on to page 9. This is on the sheriff's budget.
Bruce, can I interrupt? Somebody's saying that they can't get on to the go-to meeting. Do you see somebody that you need to admit? Or is it
There's
just,
not an admission,
it's just
so
open?
they need to try the link again.
Okay,
It's open to everybody.
Okay, you don't have to admit anybody?
Yeah, you don't have to be invited.
okay.
If you can hear me on the internet there, you just have to try again and get the link, and the meeting is open to everybody. I'm talking into the computer. I think I'm talking to myself. Okay. We'll move on to item number, page 10. Okay, now page 11. Okay, on to page 12. And then we'll move on to page 13. And I'll ask her one more time, any questions? We've gone through all the pages. Okay, that'll be the end of the work session then. Now I'd be asking for a motion to move the resolution adopting the General Appropriations Act for the fiscal year of 2021, 2022.
So moved.
We have a motion,
Support?
and we have support. A motion is by trustee Sargent, and the support is by treasurer Fisher. Any further questions? If there are no further questions, could we have roll call, please?
Yes, Karen Dowdle,
Yes.
Ed Brightfield,
Yes?
Linda Garrett,
Yes.
Chuck Sargent,
Yes.
Lori Fisher,
Yes.
Bennett, yes, Supervisor Pearson.
Yes, resolution is so moved. Okay, we'll move on to item number 3, and we have the village president, Mike McDonald, here, and this is in reference to a sewer study. This is a joint study between Addison Township and the village of Leonard. And I think I'm going to ask Mr. McDonald if he would just give us a small rendition of the village of Leonard's
Translate
case on
briefs,
this.
right?
Yes.
I only have one page. Well, thank you for the opportunity to address the township board. The village isn't asking the township to partner in anything more than this sewer analysis or study. We're not trying to get outside of our boundaries. We just need some help. Basically, because it's a one-time thing. We're not going to come back and ask for you to participate as an active participant in getting sewers or no sewers for the village. It's strictly an attempt to address a clean water issue, because there are some questions that have been raised, which you should have seen in the packet that you received from the village. It had on it specific test areas in county drains, both inside and outside the village. And some of those levels were higher than normally considered fit for human living, so to speak, health. The village would much prefer to have, if we do the study and we have an opportunity, we would much prefer a community septic system, not a large sanitary sewer system with buildings and full-time personnel and all that. If the area of concern is basically the downtown area of the village, and that's where we would like to target our concerns and our remedies. It would also mean that we wouldn't need a lot of property in order to have a community septic system. There are communities in Michigan that have gone this route, and it seems to have worked out well for them. And there are mostly villages, and then cities, et cetera, have larger populations, and community septic systems generally aren't adequate for them. I also want to clarify, in my letter to the township board, I asked for a contribution. That isn't to say that we're looking for a handout. We want to work with the township board and the township to address the clean water concerns, because it doesn't just affect the village. What happens in the village and north of us that flows south towards Upper Lake affects township residents as well. And thus far, there has been minimal pinpoint findings that indicate a specific abuser, so to speak, somebody that might be dumping waste or anything like that. We have had some tests run in the time that has passed since 2011, 2012, and things are better than they were back then, but they're still not where they should be, which is what's driving my visit today. And when I talked in the letter about Lakeville Lake, I only used it for comparison purposes, because really in Addison Township, these are older communities or areas that were planted many, many years ago, and they were small lot plats when people were still using outhouses. So a lot of those lots that have had or are going to have problems don't have enough room for anything but a very expensive either system. Either way, it's going to be an expensive repair. And that is one of the things that we would hope to learn from the study, whether package treatment systems would work in the village in these small lots, or whether we really have to look at something else. My hope would be that it would be and remain a private situation where, yes, it would be expensive for a village resident to have to buy one of these systems like some have in the township, but it would be far preferable, I think, from a management and licensing and operation, for us to go that way rather than try and do it through a community septic system even. But the study will help determine that. If in fact it's only a public system would be recommended by the results of the sewer study, I would recommend to the village then that, and the village council, that we have a vote. Just because we do this study doesn't mean that if the findings are that we need to do something or have to do something, it doesn't mean that we're going to, without the people having input on whether we're going to do it. As you saw in the packet that you received, we did a survey near the end of 2018, and it had mixed results. It certainly wasn't an overwhelming win for having a sewer system because fewer people wanted it for themselves. You know, if you weighed everything together, there were more no's to doing something than there were yeses. So that's a huge factor in whether or not we could move forward with a public system. And let's see. As far as our working with the township and the township board, and I've spoken to some of you, we would love to have some type of agreement, an interlocal agreement, if you would, so that you have access to all of the findings, you know, and that we share those findings, and then we work from those against what direction you want to go or what you expect of us. And I think that's only fair, and that's the right way to do it, because we are talking about 2 county drains, a small village, and a lake, you know, a basin, basically a lake situation, a watershed, if you would. So I have spoken to the Department of Agriculture, the United States Department of Agriculture. I've talked to the Michigan Department of Agriculture. I've talked to the MDEQ. I've tried to find money everywhere. The Water Resources Commission, the Health Department. Nobody funds initial studies for sewers. It's like the ante that you have to pay up front to get into the game. You can't borrow money without a study. So you have to do a study, and you have to foot the bill. That's the one lesson that I've learned through all of this. Basically, in closing, I think the township and the village working together can continue to work to improve the water quality using available information and techniques on such matters, and that would be the benefit to all of our community. If Addison Township chooses not to work with the village, and which is certainly, you know, a possibility, the village will have to wait longer to perform the study, meaning that it will delay our objective of a clean water solution for all of us. So, thank you, and if you haven't, get up to the chair.
How much money are you at? What is the total amount? And if the township partnered with you, we would do 50%, is that correct?
Not quite. The village has solicited donations, and we have received $2,500 from local businesses to put towards the study. So the study amount is $24,500, at least as per the agreement that the preliminary agreement that we got from Row Professional Services, who also act as village engineers. So the difference is about $22,000. So we were asking the township if they would split that with the village, and that would be your share, $11,000.
Okay. Trustee Brakefield was first, so go right ahead.
Yeah, Mike, I've got a comment that the people of Village of Leonard are still Addison Township residents. We can't turn our back on township residents, okay? That's the way I see it. Your letter was well written, extremely well written, and I don't have to tell you how I feel about it. I'll let everybody else have their words, but if Supervisor Pearson would like to go further, that'd be great.
Clerk Bennett had a question?
Yes, and I agree with that, and thank you, Mike, for spearheading this, and I think it's I think we should go forward with this, and I know Bruce put in a lot of time as well. So part of it was, what was the benefit? And we've already discussed that it is for the health and safety of the people, but also the study is going to be coming outside of the village of Leonard, correct? It's gonna be checking out those drains as well?
Well, it will involve reviewing the information and going out into the township along the drains and doing more analysis. Now, I'm not gonna pretend to be able to speak to what exactly they'll be doing, but I have talked with the health department recently. It's been well over 10 years since they did any testing there, so they haven't volunteered to do it, let's put it that way. So I don't know what their motivation is.
But they're gonna look, okay, and then also in the research that I think we had shared, that there should be the agreement, so that way then everything is spelled out very clear, so again, thank you, I think this is great to move forward to stop that.
I appreciate that.
Is the public allowed to ask
No,
questions?
right now, just the board, right now. Trustee Gabel, go right ahead.
Thank you. I have a lot of questions and highlights and notes about all of these papers, so I tried to do my research. A lot of the studies and papers are a little dated. So like, for example, there was an investigation that says it's dated 3/29 of 2011. I know there's some updates on the row proposal, like for the cost, but
Right.
I guess some of my questions are, I mean, do we have current samplings of the water conditions? I mean, when's the last time that we've had that? Like, is that data available?
I think you have them in front of you, it's probably 2011. I don't have it, I've got my packet, I'm not gonna look it up, 'cause- but yeah, it was 2011 or 2012 was the latest results. And since that time, a lot of time has elapsed. And that's why I have been asking late last year and early this year if the county, either the water resources or jointly with the health department, if they would do further testing. And I get nothing, crickets.
May I just add one, I'll just answer. Just so you know that back then, there was a moratorium put on by the health department and they shut down all of the public restrooms in Leonard, so there's no public restroom. Even if you go in a store, they don't, and so that has helped a little bit on the E. coli levels from when we first did the study. I mean, I've been doing this since 2009. We were up to, 650,000 parts per million coming out. It was coming in at 60 parts per million, which is pond swimming water. But since the health department saw that it was such a problem that the restrooms have been cut off, so now only the store owners can use their own restrooms. And so I would suspect it might have come down a touch, but I suspect it hasn't come down that much. So just so you get the background on it.
Okay, so and that kind of goes to, and I'm lost a little bit in some of the timing on the studies, but in your letter, Mike, that's dated January 28th of 2021, it says that when this, there was some work that was done by the Water Resource Commission, and there were several illicit connections and the condition of the underground portions of both drains. Basically, they were found and eliminated, and they fixed a bunch of stuff. So, what it
Yeah.
sounds like, based on your letter, I don't know if it's
Yes,
somewhere
they
in here,
did.
but, so the question is then, I mean, why is it necessary now? Is it worse? I mean, we don't know if it's worse, the same.
Well, not much has changed, you know, in the period of time since testing. There have been maybe 10 additional homes built in the village, but not in the area where it would drain. It's in the far west side of the village on good, favorable soils. So I don't think they'd have contributed, but the biggest change would have been, as Supervisor mentioned, was the health department shut down the bathrooms, and they required we can't use Roman Hall for a public meeting place, restrictions like that. And I'm sure it has improved, but it's still high. It's so much higher than what you would want for a baseline safe number that there's still a lot of liability there.
And if I might just add, what the major problem is that the area does not perk. The history is in the 1890s, when the railroad came through, everybody had outhouses, and it's on clay. Everything's on clay there, so it doesn't perk. So what happens when you have a heavy rain? The water comes up, and then it flows into the storm sewers, and the storm sewers flow directly into the Clark and the Leonard drain, and that's where we get the E. coli, because none of the septics perk, okay? They don't have sand under them, they're all clay. So that's just a little history.
If I could follow up, this time of year is obviously the worst time of year for everybody that has septics. And the ground is frozen, septics are going, if they're leaking, they're going to be inundated with surface water, and that's how the E. coli, if you would, gets up and out into the surface, and then it gets swept into the county drains, because really that's all the drainage there is in the village, is the two drains. They start at the northern, the Leonard drain starts at the northern end of the village, not quite to Gerst Road, and then the Clark drain drains from downtown, and then they join together just north of Upper Lakeville Lake and turn into one creek, if you would. And yes, we did the testing. I assume that's part and parcel, for new results.
So in regards to the proposal that Road Professional Services Company would propose, and because $25,000 is a lot of money for a study, so let's say the study went forward and they came back with a proposal for collection and treatment options, then what?
Then it would be up to the village, but as I indicated, I would ask for people, I would bring, if it says there's kind of a gray area here. A lot of times, many Michigan communities have been directed by Michigan Health and Human Services or by a local health department that they have a serious condition and that they have to put in a sewer or a waste management system. And when they do that, they get all kinds of funding and grants along with loans to do that, because they're required to do it by the state or the local health department. That hasn't happened in Addison Township or in the village. When people have had septic failures, the homeowners have been allowed to perform their own fixes because the county does not want to get involved, quite frankly, in a taking where they say, you can't live there anymore because you've got septic in your backyard. They'll give them a work permit, they'll get a contractor in, fix things, but it's going to be temporary, because when you're in that situation where you have a small lot, you don't have a lot of property, you can't move your field around, and to my knowledge, there have been no package treatment systems either considered or installed in the village. We haven't had that many failures, but it's been very expensive for those residents to have to put in an engineered field. And that's only the residents that actually have the room to do that. So,
Okay.
I hope that answers.
Yeah, thanks. I probably have others, but I'll defer to.
Does anybody else have a question? Yes.
I would just like to say I worked in the village for a number of years and I'm very familiar with the situation there. And one of the things that I found crippling was that people really can't improve their property. They can't put up garages or anything. There's a restriction on any site development specifically in those areas. But it's kind of sad to see people not be able to replace a garage or make improvements on their property, and to see the property values depreciate because of that. And I also understand that having this study would open the door for opportunities for grants. Without the study, you're just stuck.
Right. Yeah, we couldn't apply to the Department of Agriculture or the Governor's Clean Water Act or any of those without a study. They just, as I said, that's the ante you have to pay in order to get in the game, so to speak. We're on the outside looking in. And I'm not saying that as soon as we get this done, we're going to be able to do that, but it just makes sense. Like, we got to figure out the scope of the problem, see how if it's affecting, hopefully, it's not affecting our residents yet or at all, but we don't know. We just need and quite frankly, an objective study The health department has offered to do it in conjunction with the Water Resources Commission at a cost that ranges, and this was, I think in one of your letters, you'll read it, it was between 25 and 35,000 is what they were saying 8 or 9 years ago. So 25,000 in today's dollars it's definitely a better price range. Plus, it's going to be an objective study. It's not going to be done with the health department having control over it. So.
One other question, Mike, are you confident that this study will achieve whatever is going to be required to be eligible for grant opportunities, or is they going to say you need this, that, and the other thing wasn't done?
Well, that's my understanding from the engineers, that this would be adequate. But I am also still looking for further testing as part and parcel of this. So that's kind of where we are right now.
Okay, does anybody else have any questions? Yes, Trustee Sargent?
Mike, you referenced that if the monies are not available, that the survey would be completed, but it would delay the objective. Correct?
Well, the objective right now is the study.
Yes.
The village doesn't have $25,000 available to do that.
But you have half the funds.
We have we have dedicated over half the funds if you include the
Contribution?
contributions.
Yes. So it would delay commencing the study. How long?
Well, a minimum of a year, because if we don't.
Next budget?
Yeah,
Okay.
yes, exactly. If we don't do it now in March, when the conditions are optimal to determine, if there's going to be septics leaking or whatever, now is the time that you're going to see that. You'll see the standing water, in the septic field areas of the home in the area, so.
You referenced a survey, and I think that survey was conducted in 2019.
I think we had the results by early 2019.
Yeah. You mentioned that it wasn't an overwhelming
No.
support.
No. A lot of people thought it would be great. It's a great idea. But they also, many of them said, but I
No,
don't
thank you.
need it. I don't want it, but, it would help open the downtown up, certainly.
Yes, but my cursory look at that survey, I think 86% of the respondents live within a 1/4 radius of the village, and 55% of the respondents do not support it. So I heard you comment, you're going to have to take it to the people. That's the challenge.
Absolutely.
May I add something on that, though?
Please.
Since that time, people's, in the village, their septics have failed now, and they can't put replacements in because the health department says now their septic is too close to their well, and they haven't not enough property, and so now they have contracts where they're being pumped out every, I think, week or 2 weeks. They're having to pay.
Sure.
These are seniors in the village who are having to do that. But I'm not just worried about the village, I'm worried about also, do we have any in our township that are contributing, okay? At one time, we used to have big farms that had pig farms and cattle farms and stuff, and is some of that coming in to this system also? Are we, and the bottom line, as you all know, Upper Lakeville Lake is the finest sewer system that, cost-wise, in the state, okay? Because when it comes and meets at Rolling Road, the 2 drains, they come into Upper Lakeville Lake, and if you look at Upper Lakeville Lake, you can walk across the weeds in the summertime, okay? That's the bottom line. And from the village through the township, if it's 650,000 parts per million, what if children get into that drain? What if they decide to go out and play in the open fields or whatever, and they walk across the drains and they get sick or whatever? I'm looking that we should have some answers here somewhere.
Yes.
We can't keep going on the way it's going on. And if we can get the government to help us now, by all means, let's I think it's time, but we've been trying since 2009.
Yes.
Okay, and this has got to be the beginning. So I think it's a very good value for the township, because ultimately we're the ones that are affected just as much as the village. So,
I agree with that. You asked my follow-up question and answered it. Thank you. The comment I would like to make regarding Lakeville Lake, and I agree with what the chair just said, that Upper Lakeville Lake is functioning as an estuary. It is a filter. For those here who may or may not know, the Lakeville Lake Property Owners Association takes an E. coli check with water samples from 6 different locations of Lakeville Lake. The most recent result of those tests, which were completed by the WRC, is that the highest reading of CFUs, colony forming units, is 156. 300 and under is acceptable, swimmable, body immersing availability. That reading was taken at the culvert at the north bay of the lake. The second reading was 126, which was taken at the southern part of the lake at the dam down by Smith's Marina. The other readings were well below 100, and that test result is dated August 20 of 2020. So in the data provided, there's 2 references to Lakeville Lake. One is the impact of Lakeville Lake is nominal, and on the same page, I think it identifies Lakeville Lake as a mesotrophic lake, which meaning it's a healthy lake, but it has medium nutrients and predominantly nitrogen and phosphorus, which is probably agriculture runoff. So I too think it's very important that the study be completed. And you mentioned an interlocal agreement. Certainly any participation would come from the township. I would support that, but anything beyond that after the study, I think that is entirely on the village.
I agree. And that was our intent.
With this caveat, obviously the survey is going to identify how far into the township south of the village the migration is and take readings. And I agree with Supervisor Pearson and what Trustee Brayfield said, that it's important for the children and the overall health, safety, and welfare of the entire township. And Trustee Brayfield mentioned that the village is part of the township. That's a true statement, but I support that effort. I do not envy your responsibility, but I do very much respect your effort.
We have to do what we have to do.
Yes.
Hopefully the public will support the effort.
Yes.
At least the public in the village.
Yes, and I think that reading of 600,000+ CFUs is confined to the southernmost part of the village, which is maybe 20 degrees northwest of Fire Station 1, Polynesian Trail Crossing, Rochester Road. Yeah, I yield.
okay. Anybody else? Pauline?
I'd like to get this off center, and I'm going to go ahead and make a motion. So the first part of it is good. The rest of it's going to be a bunch of legal jargon, so I'm just letting you know, Mike, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so thank you, truly, for bringing this forward. I mean, we really and truly need to do this for everyone involved, and thank you, Bruce, for helping Mike go for this. So for the health and safety of the people, and all the people, and the environment, I move to approve the expenditure for $11,000 from community development, checks issued to the firm, subject to a written agreement. At a minimum, the agreement should make it clear that the township's participation in this study is not an admission of any liability, nor is it an agreement to participate in anything beyond the study, which you already had said. The agreement should also make it clear that dependent upon the results of the test, any remedy implemented by the village shall be a closed system and wholly within the village unless there is an express unanimous agreement with the township to the contrary.
I don't have a problem with that at all.
That's my motion.
I'll second it.
And we have a second. Anybody have any discussion on that motion?
Well done.
Okay.
A question.
Hold on one, okay.
What, I think I heard the entire motion. What's the timing, once approval was there, and should funds be available? What's the timing on the survey? When do you commission that?
I would be guessing right now, but I have been in contact with our engineer, and he would start immediately to get everything processed. Because he, like I am, aware of the timing. You know, March, April, and May are the best months to do this. So
Thank
it would be, if I had to estimate a time frame, it would be within those 3 months.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we have the motion, we have the second. Do we have roll call on that, please?
Yes, Linda Garrett.
Yes.
Karen Gabel.
Yes.
I'm sorry,
Yes.
Ed Brightfield.
Yes?
Chuck Sargent.
Yes.
Lori Fisher.
Yes.
Bennett, yes. Supervisor Pearson.
Yes, and that passes, and thank you very much. I think this is a good start for a mutual agreement, and hopefully we can get something accomplished here for everybody in the community. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item number 4. That's waive the disposal of surplus property ordinance, section 2-196, and authorize to sell a 2008 HME Spencer engine with Fenton fire truck. I think it's pretty explanatory what we're looking for. The fire department wants to sell some equipment, and the chief has a remedy on how to sell that for the best price. First of all, we need to waive the disposal of surplus property ordinance, and Chief, if you'd like to just speak 2 seconds if you want on what you're trying to get rid of and why we want to get rid of it that way.
Yeah, the broker firm, we've used them several times in different apparatus that we sold throughout the years, and very successful in getting the most amount of money for that surplus property that we have for the township. This engine is a little bit in particular because it is it's a newer engine, and we're getting another engine in, and we bought that ladder truck, if you guys remember, and we're dual rolling that ladder truck to a quint, and that quint will meet our ISO responsibilities. So this other engine that we have, if you remember, some of you from a long time ago, it was a rescue truck, and then we refabbed it into an engine to get us by for ISO purposes. Now we have another engine coming in that the board approved last year. It's being built, and it actually will come to our township, I think, March, the end of this month. So we want to get rid of that truck. We don't need it. I don't need to pay insurance on it. I don't need to have that truck. And there is some issues electronically with that truck. So we'd like to get rid of that truck. And we're looking at about $120,000 to $130,000 for that apparatus, which then that money paid for that ladder truck that we got to use. Ladder truck was like $75,000. So it's just a really a good thing to do, and it also will lower our insurance a little bit as well.
Okay, so a motion would be in order if anybody'd like to make it to waive the disposal surplus property ordinance. That's because you have a wholesale dealer.
Yeah.
That
Tell 'em I'll
will
make
sell
that
that at the best price.
I'll make the motion.
Go right ahead.
I'll second.
Oh, so you just, okay, I thought you were gonna say something. Okay, you make a motion that, the motion is to waive the disposal of the surplus property ordinance, section 2-196, and we have trustee Geibel who seconded it. Anybody have any questions? Could we have roll call for that, please?
Yes. Chuck Sargent.
Yes.
Linda Garrett.
Yes.
Karen Gabel. Yes. Ed Brightfield.
Yes?
Lori Fisher.
Yes.
Bennett, yes. Supervisor Pearson.
Yes, okay, now we'll go on to the second part. I need a motion to authorize the sale of the 2008 HME Spencer engine with the Fenton fire truck.
I'll make that motion.
And we have the motion by trustee Brightfield,
A second.
and we have a second by trustee Sargent. Any questions on the second motion? Will we have roll call on that, please?
Yes, Karen Bevel.
Yes.
Linda Garrett.
Yes.
Ed Brightfield.
Yes.
Chuck Sargent.
Yes.
Larry Fisher.
Yes.
Bennett, yes. Supervisor Pearson.
Yes.
Can I ask one question? Could the wording in that motion be that I deal with, does that have to be in there? That I have to deal with Fenton Fire Truck to get the best price? Because I will be negotiating back and forth with people on the internet to get that amount of money. Does that have to be mentioned in the motion?
That you will be doing the negotiating?
Yeah, with the firm.
Now, I believe the motion, and correct me if I'm wrong, Supervisor, 2008 Spencer engine with Fenton Fire Truck. They're authorizing you to go to Fenton Fire Truck.
Okay, all right, good.
Very good.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to item number 5. Item number 5, I did receive the resignation of Gino Malaya. He was on the Board of Review, and he was also on the Planning Commission, and he just decided that he wanted to go a different way, and so he gave me a letter of resignation, and I have it here. So with regrets, I would like to thank him. He did a really good job. He was extremely good at the Board of Review, because he was in the banking business and very helpful. But I do understand that there comes a time when people want to move on to do something else. So with his, I don't know, I don't think I need a motion for his resignation, right? Okay. I do have a replacement that I'd like to put on for the Planning Commission, and her name is Jenny Lundy. I've known her for a long time. My son Cody and her, a child, have been through school and graduated together. She's lived in the township over 25 years. She's also on the Rochester Youth Council, and she's also on the Oxford baseball in Oxford there. There's a council there. I think she'd be a really great asset. She lives up in the northeast section, McHale. And that would be my recommendation.
What is the last name, please?
Lundy, L-U-N-D-Y. Yes.
I know Jennifer Lundy, and I second everything that you just said about her. She'd be a very good addition to the community.
Thank you. And she's a CPA, which
Yeah.
is very nice to have a CPA on the board there, because that'll help us out too.
Is it for both board?
No, that's for the planning, and then I have for the, then we'll be moving Jeff Helen up from alternate to the full Board of Review, okay? And then the last one is on the Board of Review, I'm recommending Eric Sent to go on as the alternate on the Board of Review from 12/31/2022 to replace Gino, but he would only be the alternate. He would move up, Jeff would move up to the full-time. Yes?
I just have a question. I had the pleasure of meeting the entire Board of Review this week, and Jeff seemed like a nice guy. I don't know anything about the Board of Review people, but I mean, what is Jeff's background?
What is whose?
Jeff Helen's background.
Oh, he was in corporate, and he's retired now, and he lives in the southwest corner of the township. And he also was on the election committee, and I had several times to visit with him. And he's very knowledgeable. You know, the Board of Review is supposed to be your regular citizens who are your peers at the Board of Review. They're the ones that represent the people who come to the Board of Review. They're representing their citizens. So I try to pick people that have some interest in doing good service in the township there, and he was one of them, okay? And if you notice, I have a couple other people on the Board of Review, and they're not there to in any way make the township money or anything like that. They're there to actually review a regular citizen's response to their assessment. So they're there really to make a fair and accurate thing, and so I just appoint I recommend, it's up to the board if they want to vote yes or no, but I recommend just regular people who live in the community and have an interest in the community. I'm not looking for just professionals or anything like that. So, yes.
How many different boards is Eric sent on?
Eric Sent is on the planning board.
So we have another member of Board of Review that's also on another board too?
Yes. I have Lawrence Smith, who's on 2 boards, and the chairman has been on the ZBA and the planning board, and that's even before I came into office. Anybody else have any questions?
I'd like to make a motion to approve Jenny Lundy to the Planning Commission through December 31st, 2021, to move Jeff Helen from the alternate to the member, to a regular member of Board of Review, and Eric Sent as the alternate to the Board of Review, and that will be through 12/31/22.
I'll second.
And we have a second with trustee Garrett. Any questions? Okay, could we have roll call on that, please?
Let's see.
Karen Gottle.
Yes.
Chuck Sargent.
Yes.
Linda Garrett.
Yes.
Ed Brightfield.
Yes.
Lori Fisher.
Yes.
Bennett, yes. Supervisor Pearson.
Yes. Okay, that passes. We'll move on to public forum. Okay, this is the time where we listen, and anybody from the public, if they'd like to speak, they're more than welcome to speak. We try to hold it to 3 minutes. Is there anybody at public forum who would like to speak? Yes, go right ahead. Dana Fredericks?
I'm John Fredericks. I live at 1440 Spruce on the west end of Copper Hills Golf Course. And I've been a resident of Addison Township for probably 40 years. I built my house over there when Copper Hills was still a riding stable. And I've seen Copper Hills go from, going to be a championship golf course to a state-of-the-art banquet facility. None of this ever happened. And as I gave you the paperwork from the minutes of years ago, 20 years ago, when Curtis Wright came in front of the board and tried to propose a temporary septic field that borders my property, as you can read in the minutes, the ZBA completely turned it down. And he agreed that once he had his phase 1 done, he would hook all the houses on phase 1 to the sewage treatment plant, because the field he had in there was temporary. Well, here it is 20 years later. To my knowledge, the field's never been maintained. Nothing's ever happened with it. It's still in the state it was 20 years ago. The sewage treatment plant is done. It's my understanding the sewage treatment plant is at capacity right now. There's an additional 37 houses that I don't know if that capacity takes into account the additional lots that are available, or if it's at capacity right now with the houses that are hooked onto it. My problem is that I live right behind this thing, and if it ever goes down, I'm going to be one to pay the price. Nobody has a plan of what's going to happen if that field ever fails. I know they've never maintained it to the best of my knowledge, because I live right there and I can see back there. I just don't understand why the township decided not to enforce any of the consent agreement articles that Curtis Wright and the township agreed to years ago that were to be completed in order for him to get building permits at Copper Hills development. So here I sit, after sitting in all these meetings 20 years ago and going through a site plan and this and that. As soon as I hit the pavement, it must have been, okay, Curtis, go ahead and do whatever you want. Mr. Fredericks is gone. And as a result, I've got a 16-family temporary septic field behind my house. And what brings it up, even more into question, I know that I've heard that the property was going to go up for sale. And since the township decided not to honor any of the terms of the consent agreement, I don't see any reason in the world that they would ever have to hook it up. I don't know what the consent agreement stated as far as that, and I don't know, what the purpose was of not honoring the terms of the consent agreement. That's all I want to say.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else in the public who would like to speak?
Taking callers yet, Bruce?
Yes, I'll take people on the internet right now. Go right ahead. Just announce your name and if you would, that would be helpful, and your address, or just where you live, what street.
Hey, Bruce, it's Rob Gazanek, 1445 Spruce Street. Back in December, at the December meeting, you guys voted on not enforcing the consent judgment for Copper Hills. And Bruce, you said it, and other people have said it in conversation that, well, Donna can't afford the job. Financial hardship has never been a factor in the decision-making process for the township. The building department, planning commission, and zoning board of appeals do not include financial matters in their decisions. Why does the board feel that now is a factor for enforcing why is it the board feel this is a factor in enforcing a judge's consent right now? Why are you protecting the rights? The planning commission and board stated that building permits for phase 2 of Copper Hills would not be issued until phase 1 was connected to the sewer treatment plant. The plan is completed. Phase 1 was not connected. The township returned the $100,000 surety bond and the developer, and phase 2 building permits were issued, and they're still being issued. How come the township failed to enforce what was required, and why are you not enforcing these requirements now? Why are you still issuing building permits for phase 2? If the developer cannot manage the task at hand over the last 25 years, then the township should step in and finish the job correctly, since Addison Township officials mismanaged the entire project when they let an inexperienced developer build his fantasy project. The township must find a solution, create a community development district, or issue a non-ad valorem assessment of Copper Hills development. This ensures the developer is financially responsible for their lack of commitment as required by the master plans that were approved. Michigan Eagle, one second here, and the current sewage treatment managers have stated that the plant is maxed out and has shortcomings. What is the township doing to assist local residents forced to smell the atrocious odor producing a cesspool that's out there on the corner of Drainer and Lake George? What is the capacity of the sewage treatment plant? Do you guys even know that? When will we see 2 Copper Hill water test wells produced that was part of the consent judgment? I mean, it's nice hearing all about Leonard and what's going on there with their water issues, but we've been fighting for over 25 years to get these test wells in. We've had 2 people die of cancer, 1 person die of kidney issues. We had a child that's battled 3 different bouts of cancer all around this field here. I feel sorry for the folks in Leonard, but you just spent $11,000 on a study there, and you're not even enforcing Copper Hills Development to build their 2 test wells here, so we know what the hell's in our water. Let's see here. You got why was a new larger Copper Hills maintenance barn built and not subject to the proper green space landscaping requirements like all the other commercial construction projects in the community? Once again, the township fails to enforce current ordinance requirements, and you support the rights in this. There's a lot of things you guys have been doing, but you're not doing what the judge was asked you to do. This is all selective enforcement of the township ordinance, and it's rampant in Addison Township. And Copper Hill's mess is proof.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that's about more than 3 minutes, but do you have just a closing statement real quick?
Yeah, I've been in this township for over 25 years. Why don't you appoint me to one of these boards?
I might. Thank you. Okay, anything else? Okay, is there anybody else? Is there anybody else that would like to speak?
Yes. Hi, this is Robert.
Yes, go right ahead.
About Oakwood. Yeah, just got a couple comments or questions actually. And I do support you guys doing a study on Leonard. It's a good idea. I just wonder, was there a looking into a lower cost for another supplier rather than current village engineering? You know, maybe get the cost half, down half or something like that. Also, how many houses are involved into this study? If it's only like 50 or 60 houses, that's quite a bit per house. And what is actually involved in the study? Are they drilling into the ground, doing the soil samples? Are they doing septic checks? What are they doing to get the $500 per household cost? It just seems quite exorbitant. So I just wondered why it was so expensive for a small area to be studied. That's basically what I was trying to figure out. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else would like to speak in public forum? Okay. Public forum is closed then. We'll move on to Addison Township Board reports. Anybody on the boards would like to speak?
Yes.
Yes, go right ahead.
We have an update on the NOHAS. A social media toolkit has been received and will be distributed this week or early next week to each township. That's the posters and the individual notices to be posted. In addition to that, the dates have been finalized, and the one of local importance is April 24 of 2021. That is the Oxford Middle School NOHAS collection site. The operating hours are 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. SISMA, the application has been filed to and identify the 3 to 5 acres Phragmite infestation or colony just north of the township watershed out in the water, the tower. Decisions have not yet been made which projects will be approved, so I'm expecting to receive information on that in the near future.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else on board? Yes, Ed?
I've got a question for the package. We received a package from the building, Doug Lowe, the inspections
yes.
and all that. I really don't have a problem with getting this activity report, but I do have a problem with the enforcement list. I think that should remain in Doug's office. I really don't need to see someone's dirty laundry, and especially I don't want to see it on this board packet. If Doug wants to give a permit, a list of all the people that's asked for permits, fine. But I'd like to request you, if somebody needs to see that, Doug's office is always open. But I'd really appreciate, I don't need to see this.
Okay, well, we could do that if somebody's personally requesting to see who received a citation or whatever. We can make that so it's as needed basis or as requested basis if anybody wants it. But if the rest of the board doesn't want to see it, I can have Jamie or Doug eliminate that and only give it to anybody who requests it, if that's what you wish. But
that's what I would like to see.
I actually like to see them. I get phone calls by residents, and I just kind of like to know what's going on.
And Doug's office is right down the hallway, and he'll give you a report.
It's hard to remember to ask, so it's nice when it's just with the packet. That forces me to look at things once a month. That forces me to be aware of what's happening, what are issues for our residents.
Okay, then if that's the case, could you have Doug stamp confidential to this board, just like the attorney would be, so we can't hand it out and all that?
Could we delete the address? Would that work?
Sure, anything.
Would that work for everybody
I was
else
just
if the
uncomfortable
address is
seeing
deleted?
stuff.
Well,
I don't like that.
I will explain that when we get the complaints, usually we try to keep those anonymous because we don't want neighbor finding out against another neighbor that they had a complaint or whatever. We do try to keep those confidential. And I will tell you that 90% of our complaints, as soon as they receive a citation, they say, oh, I didn't know or whatever, and they take care of the citation. So they really don't like their names put out there so everybody can see it. And I understand that part of it because most of them do take care of those issues. And then we have the other group that, of course, we do have to go a little farther and take them to court or whatever. But it's whatever the board's pleasure is. How about if you want to receive them, you let Doug or Jamie know, and then we'll every month put it on it so it comes in your board pack. And then whoever doesn't want to receive them, we just won't do that. Does that sound fair enough?
Well, Pauline mentioned, just take the addresses off.
I can do that.
Then it's fine. So-
But does somebody want the addresses on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, I think that the two reports, and specifically the build report inclusive of ordinance report, was first mentioned during the budget review, and I think that was the January meeting, and Trustee Geibel questioned that. At a follow-up meeting, I had done some research. I talked to the building department, I talked to the supervisor. There's a contract exists. It is a contract requirement that the building department provide that report to the board. There is no requesting the report in the contract language. So I asked that the report be distributed to this board. I think that it's an important database. I can look at that report, look at geographic areas, make a quick determination where the most new build permits are going. That's wonderful for the township. When I look at the ordinance report, if there is a repetitive violation, and most complaints are neighbor feuds. It's a neighbor issue. But if I look at something and it is conservation area, conservation area, conservation area, then perhaps that is something in the future this board should discuss and come to an agreement, if need be, to commission the planning commission to look at a specific ordinance. It's just what happened with the ZBA when we addressed the 100-foot setback from the high water mark. So I find the information extremely valuable, and if you choose not to look at it, that's your prerogative. Certainly, anything that comes to this board, I keep it confidential.
Okay.
Okay.
What we'll do is if you want it, it'll still be provided. And if you don't want it, we won't provide it. All you have to do is let me know. So,
Well, Trustee Sargent hit the nail right on the head. If I don't want to see it, even if it's there, I won't
okay,
notice.
very, very good. And I have no problem. We'll provide anything that anybody wants, okay? Anybody else on the board?
I want to do a really quick one. So I received a phone call from Oxford Township. They have gypsy moths, so they were actually able to get a field study done, and it was through Macomb County. So they hooked me up with Macomb County. Their field inspectors are no longer available. So they did send a lot of MSU videos that we put on our website so that we can probably start taking care of the gypsy moths ourselves this year, and then hopefully next year we'll get on the bandwagon to take care of that issue. I have contacted Oakland County as far as they're going to participate, and I'm still in transition with Oakland County MSU to find out if they're going to do something next year. Otherwise, we'll be working with Macomb if we're interested. That's it. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? I think that covers all the boards. I think. Okay. Okay, we got legal reports or communications.
Two. I'm not going to read them. I'm going to paraphrase. So we do have one from Wayne Hodges, and it was clarification on his original letter about he would like the township to provide 100% for marine control. And then I have another one that a resident sent to me that is in direct for the orphan well list, and she received word that the Energex well might go on the orphan well list next year. She was hoping this year.
Okay. And I guess we'll move on to the supervisor's report. I just have one thing, the new American Rescue Plan Act that just came out. Apparently, I had a big meeting with all the supervisors in the township today, in the county today, and everybody is talking about all the money that everybody's going to get. I don't want to count my chickens until they're hatched, okay? But according to the American Rescue Plan, Addison Township is supposed to get $652,464. Okay, like Waterford Township is getting over $9 million. I know it's on $1.5 million or so to Oxford. But anyways, it can only be used for certain things, you know, emergency from the impact of the COVID, and a premium pay for some of the additional workers that had to work in the pandemic, provide government services affected by revenue reduction, and but it does have another thing here. It says investments in water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure. So I will keep you in tune on that and see where that leads us. But like I said, that money is supposed to come right to the state, and then the state's supposed to distribute it directly to the local governments. Doesn't go through the county. So we will see where that goes. This is all brand new, and everybody is, all the newspapers are already contacting, what are you going to spend all this money on? Well, first of all, I don't have that money yet, okay, so I don't know what I'm going to spend it all on, okay, so, but that will be a decision of this board if that does come to be true, so we'll see. This is all new. I would like to say, just, I'll comment on a few things on the golf course. I've been trying to fix this problem at the golf course since 2008 and 9. I haven't issued a permit to put the clubhouse up. And I know that not everybody was happy with that decision, but it was on the original plan, and it didn't have everything that everybody wanted at it, but it was a move forward, okay, to get the junky trailers out of there. Unfortunately, I worked with Brooks Patterson, I worked with other economic development plans, along with Curtis Wright, who owned the golf course. I tried to get the small business loans. Some of the other people in our community did get the small business loans to large sums, but at the last minute, Curtis Wright, who was the owner, did not receive the loan. So that fell through. I've had several complaints about the sewer plant. I drive by there and it stinks. It stinks twice a year because the pond flips. I've had the state out there, I had the DEQ out there, I had the health department out there, I had the people who run the system out there. I walked the system and they all said it's working properly, and I kept telling them it stinks. And they said, well, the permit was issued by the state. It was not issued by the health department. It was issued by the state of Michigan. They went around the township, and that was issued by the state. And my response was, it stinks. And he says, that's a natural thing. So then I now find out that the control or the operation of the septic system has been turned over to, I guess, the association, if I'm correct.
Only the sewage treatment plant.
Okay, the sewage treatment plant. But it stinks. I've said it stinks. I've had everybody out there. I know it stinks, but I didn't issue the permit. This was done back in 1996. We've gone back to court on this since then, in 2001. It cost the township a lot of money to go back, and we didn't receive anything out of this. It didn't change anything. My thing is, a new developer came in. I did have talks with him, He produced all of these big exotic plans, and I said, it won't fly, we don't want all that. He was willing to work with the township. I said, before you do anything, the sewer plant has to be fixed. He said, I can do that. I said, before we do anything, the clubhouse has to be built. He says, I can do that. I said, before anything happens, the 16 homes over there off of the east side of the golf course has to be hooked up to the sewer plant. He said, not a problem. I said, but you're not going to get all of these homes, you're not going to get all of this stuff in here. We may give you something here, senior condominiums or whatever the board decides. But I said, you're not going to get this big thing. He said, I was just showing you what we could do and what we've done. But I can work with the board on this. I brought that back to the board. And the board decided that we didn't want to hear it. We didn't want to hear anything. And I go along with that agreement. That's what the board decided. Right after that, the board then said, well, now we want to go after the people who own the golf course, and let's force them or take them back to court again and revisit all the stuff that we've already revisited. My thing is, I'm trying to get solutions. I'm trying to get them to fix the problems. We went to court the last time. And everybody says, I see that somebody has commented to me that, why are you protecting them? I'm not protecting them. I want those junky trailers out of there. I want that stinky sewer plant fixed. And I'd love to have the 16 homes hooked up to the plant. And how do you do that the best way? Do you sue them? And then when the judge comes back and says, okay, you have a judgment, but there's no money? Then where are we? Once again, we spend taxpayer dollar on this, and it didn't help the solution. It didn't fix it. So my thing is, I'm trying. The last little bit I heard is that possibly these developers aren't coming back, but possibly the person that owns this now may be able to, in some way or another, possibly get a loan to do some of this stuff. And I'm willing to work with them. Whatever I can do, I'll go down to the county with them. I'll do whatever I can with a small business loan or whatever, because I want that stinky septic fixed and I want those junky trailers out of there. But I inherited this. This came back from the 1990s. Where was everybody during this whole time? Where was everybody?
She was here.
Well, then some of these issues Pauline can enlighten us on. But what I'm saying is, where were these solutions back then in 1996? Okay, I think they tried once. They took everybody back to court, cost us some money, and we're still at the same point. And so I come into office, and right away I start negotiating with them to get some of that stuff taken care of. Unfortunately, Curtis Wright died. Otherwise, maybe at this time and juncture, we might have had something. But I'll continue to try in some way or another get that golf course. I'd hate to see it go back into receivership or something and just grow up into weeds. It is here. It was approved back in the 90s. It's here. And a lot of people think it's an asset, okay? A lot of people don't like it, but it's here. So I'll keep trying, but when people say we're not doing anything, yeah, we can go and shut the golf course down and it can grow up to weeds. If that's what everybody wants, just give me a vote on that and that's what I'll do. But otherwise, I'll keep trying some way or another. Like I said, I'll go to a small business administration. I'll try to do whatever I can for them to get a clubhouse there that the township will be proud of, and a swimming pool there for the residents. If I close that golf course down, everybody who bought a house on that golf course will lose a huge asset.
Bruce, I'd just like to make one comment.
This is my time, just my time. Okay, everybody's had their time.
You sold 37 lots in there.
Please. And so what I'm trying to say is I understand all this stuff that I inherited, but at least I was trying to do something on it, and I'll continue to try to do something. I know what the situation is in there. And I do understand that no matter how we go after them. If you don't have the money to fix it, then the solution is to try to help them get the money to fix it. And that's what I'm trying to do. And I'll leave it at that right now, but when people accuse us of not doing anything, this is from the 1990s. And back when it was started, why wasn't this stuff taken care of back then?
My point.
Thank you. Other
Hey,
than
Bruce,
that,
Bruce, you inherited this, but the residents
please,
are the ones that are getting screwed.
Please, this was my time. Everybody had their time. I just wanted to tell the township side of this, my side of this, and I'll continue to try to work at solutions on this. Believe me, I don't like them there. I don't like the situation there, but there's got to be a way that this has to be fixed so that everybody is happy and satisfied. And I don't know what it is yet, but I will keep trying. I will say that at this time, I'd ask for an adjournment to the meeting, if there's a motion.
I'll make that motion.
And if there's a second.
Second.
And we have a second. All those in favor, I guess we'll have to do roll call, I guess, because it's on video also. Roll call, please.
Linda Garrett.
Yes.
Ed Rickfeld.
Yes.
Bennett, yes. Supervisor Pearson.
Yes.
Lori Fisher.
Yes.
Chuck Sargent.
Yes.
Karen Bible. Yes.
Thank you, we are adjourned.